for some questions?
Ready for some questions? Oh? When I was growing up, nobody said, what country did your family come from or anything. You were Americans, and you'd been there for, I think my family came over like in 1700 and something. Mm-hmm. And I thought we were German because of the name Finger. But then it turns out that and it's in my dad's death notice too, that his mother was Eva Doolittle. And there were a lot of Doolittles. And there were Scotch and Irish, not Irish, Scotch and English, and German. And most of them came from England, I think. And, well, of course, Georgia was settled by an English colony, Overthorn. And most people there were English and Irish and Scotch. And they had simple names, not like here in Milwaukee where they have a 2-inch long name. They had like Brown and Jones and Height and, well, Finger, which was unusual. I thought when I went to school, I was wishing my name wasn't Finger because everybody'd say Butterfinger. So, that you can cut out. But that paper, they all settled in the South. But I know the ancestry is English, Scotch, and then MacArthur's. It's Sykes and German. And the only German I know about is on my dad's side. And his dad was Henry Pardee Finger, and his mother was English. But no, you were just Americans. If somebody said to me, what nationality are you? And I think, Americans, what else would I be, you know? My mom's name was Jewel Lee, Jewell, Jewel Lee. Bone, B-O-N-E. I thought we had the funniest names. But anyway, Bone. And my dad was Henry Pardee Finger. And my mom's, now this is what I heard because her family died so young. But there was something about a ship falling on her dad. Now I don't know why. If he was in the service or what. Because he never said. But part of a ship fell on him and it killed him. And our mother died of pneumonia before she was 5 years old. So she was raised by a cousin. At least she called her cousin Nana. So I don't know. I remember meeting her, but very rarely. And then my dad was born November the 13th, 1892 in Cordial, Georgia, the son of Henry F. Finger and Mrs. Eva Doolittle Finger. He was a retired clerk with the Seaboard Airline Railroad and attended Bethel Methodist Church. This is just a funeral. And it tells about his daughters and surviving are his son Henry P. Finger Jr. of Johns Island. That's where they lived, is Johns Island in Charleston. And 3 daughters, Mrs. Evelyn Chambliss of Albany, Georgia, Mrs. Katherine E Stiehm of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and Dorothy Moore of Charleston, and 3 sisters, Myrtis Finger and Miss Ivy Finger, both of Thompson, Georgia, and Bivens Matthew, oh, he was a drunk, of Gainesville, Florida, a brother of E.F. Finger of Albany. 20 grandchildren and 3 great-grandchildren. My dad worked for the Seaboard Railroad, and railroads were a big thing at that time. That was before, well, remember the Wright brothers only flew it in 1903 when their first flight. So we didn't have much well, of course, during the war they had airplanes and that too. But railroads were real big at the time, and so my dad worked for the Seaboard Railroad, and he was transferred to Charleston, South Carolina. I grew up in Albany, Georgia, and I thought it was heaven on earth because you had good friends, and it was just you didn't have a lot of money, but you had a lot of other things. You had good friends, and It was a good lifestyle. My mom never worked because women didn't work back then. But they did all the, I mean, kind of like the men worked, but they didn't work much around the house, you know. And so my dad, he never helped my mom with any. He would do the man's work, but he wouldn't do any dishwashing or, you know, anything like that. I had two sisters, Evelyn and Dorothy. And Evelyn, I don't even know how many kids she had. I think 4 or 5. Dorothy had 4. When I was growing up, the North was someplace. Remember, the Civil War hadn't been over that many years. And they still had a lot of resentment for the war. An awful lot. I just never seemed to pick up on that. I mean, it was over, it was done with. And what was the need of having now? You know, why dislike something? Well, Christmas was not as big a thing as remember, we didn't have a lot of money. But Easter, we always had an Easter egg hunt with the eggs and the chocolate bunnies and everything. We always went to the circus, and the circus was outside. And when I was a kid, we went to the movies a lot. Just a little house like you see along the streets, just a little wooden house, you know, bungalow. It wasn't luxurious in any way, but we had beds to sleep in and tables to eat from. We had all the necessary things, you know, but nothing luxurious. You know what they had where I grew up? Peanuts. Oh my gosh, there was a man. It was in the paper here. Mary read it too. He put out contaminated peanuts and I think he killed some people. And he had to pay, I think he's in jail. But that peanut, the man across the street from us was superintendent of the peanut mill. And the peanut mill was down the street and around the corner and down a ways. And peanuts were a big thing. Peanuts and cotton. And that you could be driving along the road and see a peanut field and go and shake those peanuts. And at ball games they always had boiled peanuts. Oh, they were sheer salt. They boiled them in salty water. They were so good. That's right, peanuts, cotton, sugar cane. I don't think you have sugar cane here. I don't know why anybody would like that stuff, but we did. It's just kind of like heat, and you chew it in this sweet juice. Although I know that kind of like my mom always had a garden. I mean, you know, we always had cutting. She didn't know how to can. You'd have vegetables in the summer and vegetables in the winter. You know, winter vegetables and summer vegetables. And my mama had those stupid chickens. And if you ever want anything messy, walk with bare feet through a chicken yard. That is one nightmare. And I don't know what she ever did with those ducks. We didn't eat those ducks. I wonder maybe we ate them, we didn't know it. I do remember one time my sister and I, oh God, it was a nightmare. She sent us to the store to get 2 dressed chickens. Well, it was different back then. There was a red chicken and a black and white chicken. Now, they were dressed kind of cute for us, you know, a red chicken and a black and white chicken. But when she meant dressed, she meant cleaned. So anyway, but we took them home. We thought we were cute. We were. Well, my mom says, well, now you got to kill the chickens. I thought, oh, God, here we go. Because when my mom said something, you didn't argue. So we went in the backyard, and Dorothy took the chicken. You're supposed to ring and ring and ring to that neck, you know, whatever. And she did that, and I did it first, that's right, and it flew away. So, poor chicken. And then Dorothy went, I said, Dorothy, keep going. Because you got to kill the chicken or it'll fly away. So then she kept on and she killed the chicken, and I think she started crying. And my mom slapped me. So, because we never did bring home any dressed chickens again, though. I don't think we ever brought a chicken home again. But that's not as bad as my sister. She sent my sister and brother to the store. But they were older, because my brother was 11 years old and my sister was 11 years old. My brother was 9 years older. They bought a dozen eggs My sister got angry at my brother, and she threw one egg at a time at him all the way home. So it was fun growing up there. It was more relaxed. Now we didn't have to worry about the streets and crime so much. There was crime, but it's not close to you. It was like in Chicago or someplace. Yes, we had Mungo. Bungo, we used to take, little black boys would pass the house, and I used to have to go out and pull his mouth open, get the leg out of there. He didn't like black people. He lasted quite a while before he disappeared. But I think somebody just didn't want to get bit again. So, but anyway, then we had Mungo. Who else? We had other animals. We had cats. So I used to bring sick cats home and give them castor oil and try to feed them and things like that. Why did my mom let me do that? I mean, these cats were sick. And I'd feel so sorry for them. And I'd bring them home and I'd take care of them. Oh, except Tom. And Tom got mange. And I had the cream for him and I didn't put it on. He died and I felt horrible. Because it's just like I killed a cat. Yeah, we had cats and dogs. We had Prince, who was a collie mix. There were others, I can't remember. But just open the door and the dogs would run around, come home and eat. Go out again, run around, come home and eat. Mm-hmm. It was different back then. It was fun growing up in the South. It was friendly and warm, and we thought it was the greatest place in the world when we were there. I knew a lot of good black people, and a lot of them would go, oh God, they have fun at church. They had more fun at funerals than we did at a birthday party. If God didn't shake those pearly gates open, they were there to do it for him. I mean, if you ever wanted to hear anything funny, well, we never went to the black church, but we'd go past that and listen, and they'd be in there shouting, oh Lordy, 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 have mercy on me. And then, then whatever, and they had a lot of fun. They were very religious. Because they had to be. God was afraid not to let them be. Oh boy, I'll tell you. I remember if a white person was killed and a black person was killed, they would be punished for killing the white person, but the black person was thought of as like less than human. That was just the mentality. I remember when you'd walk down the street and you'd meet a black person, they would get off the street sidewalk so you could pass by. Yeah, it was sad. But you didn't know any better. That's if you're in a society, that's the way it is. I mean, your mentality doesn't tell you, well, some of the things, yeah, some of the things aren't quite right. First of all, you were taught manners. I mean, if you didn't have manners, you were considered crude. We always said yes ma'am, no ma'am, and yes sir, no sir. You never said yes or no, because that was the height of what? Impoliteness. Mm-hmm. But I mean, you'd be punished if you didn't say yes ma'am and no ma'am, yes sir, yes no sir. But the teachers were very strict. I mean, and kind of like they had a thing which was kind of good. They put you on your honor. If they left the room, they put you on your honor. And you were taught to have a conscience back then, because and if you talked to that, you didn't think it was cute and funny like they do now. And if the kids, and there were always some that would act up and think it was cute, but then the rest of the class didn't think it was so funny. They'd think that it's rude, it's impolite, it's not nice. But I know that the principal had a paddle about that long, and he used it on the boys, not on the girls. But he used. And I know he did use it. I think he rarely used it, though. But the main thing is you had to be you had to be respectful, because you would, I don't think they'd tolerate you in the school, if you weren't. And the kids, 99% of them were. Oh, there'd be a couple of cute ones, but and they were all white. The Catholic, Protestant, Jews all went to the same school, and in the morning they read from the King James Bible. They said the Lord's Prayer with the ending, "For thine is the kingdom, power, and glory," which the Catholics did not have, and said the Pledge of Allegiance. We sang Dixie sometimes, and that was it. And they'd have chapel about twice a week, where everybody'd go into chapel, but they were, as well as I remember, they were very, very obedient people, because if a teacher said do something, you'd do it. And you'd never talk back or anything. That would have been impossible. I would imagine I'm not saying all of them, none of them didn't try it sometimes, but as a rule, they didn't do it. And I think we learned, it would say if you didn't learn, it was your fault, No blacks in the school. Then they started integrating the schools. I never could understand, because I know there was the superintendent of the white school and the same superintendent of the black school. I never knew where the black schools were. But when they started integrating the school, the black kids were so far behind the white kids that they started private schools, because they wanted their kids to learn and to graduate on time, when they were supposed to. So they started, and some people even got jobs so they could send their kids to private schools. I don't know, but I think now they've caught up a little bit. Where I went, the Catholics were not very well liked in the South, but they didn't have Catholic schools. They only had one junior high where I went, and one high school. Oh, and in this little town where I lived too, well, it was a nice little town, but anyway, they had a cotton mill district, and they had a cotton gin there. And the kids from the cotton mill, they must have had a school someplace for them as grade schools. They had several grade schools around, but one high school and one junior high. And then they were always so poor looking. I mean, not only poor looking, but they just looked different. Mm-hmm. I mean, nothing was wrong with it. I don't know how to put it. They just looked like they just didn't have as much as the other kids did. And yet they worked in the cotton mill. I was never there. My first job is they would let you work when you were, I can't remember. I think it was before you were 16. I have to say that because I don't know. And they had dime stores where you don't know what they are. They're kind of like a dollar store, but they were dime stores. And I got a job when I was really young. Oh, and I think I got my Social Security, and I thought, what am I going to do with that way back then? And then I worked there when I was in high school. And then when I got out of high school, I went to work with this man. He was from Chicago. He was with glasses or something. And how they have prescriptions? Well, I thought they were coded messages for the Nazis or something. So I quit that job. Besides, they were Yankees. So anyway, they came down there. Boy, they must have a good business going. But anyway, then down the hall is this, there was this doctor. This girl was going to quit, so she asked me if I wanted to work for this doctor as a receptionist. So I went down and I worked for this Dr. Blair. Well, after the dime store, I went to the dress shop. It's called My Shop. But anyway, I worked there for a while. we went in groups, whatever my friends did, and we'd all do the same thing. We'd all go to the dime store, we'd work there, we'd go to the dress shop, we'd work there. Then I worked at the doctor's as a doctor receptionist, and then when I moved to Charleston, I went to business school, and I worked for an attorney. I can't remember how much I got paid. I wish I could at the dime store. I think it was only like $2 or $3 a week or something. I don't remember. It wasn't much. The Depression, that was that terrible. I was young, so it didn't bother me that much, but I know I would go past houses where people's furniture was sitting outside because they couldn't pay the rent. And I used to think, if they can't pay the rent, and they had no place to go. There was no charity or anything like that then. They did have soup lines because people didn't have enough food. And it was really a tough time as far as food, getting a job, money. I remember when a newspaper coming out and they had pictures of people jumping out of windows in New York because they had lost everything, That was a bad time. And there's some people my age that still have resentment, or still have, what would you call it, where they're afraid to spend money or anything. Because a lot of people said they went to bed hungry at night. It was so happened that my mom was a good cook and she could sew. So we didn't have a lot, but we had enough that we didn't have to scrape the bottom of the barrel for things. And I don't remember ever having too much food, but I don't remember ever going to bed hungry either, or without food. And it was a bad time. And here you had factories, and that was what, the Civil War, you had all the factories and everything here, and the South had nothing. So it was a bad time. I remember the beginning of World War II, like we were at a soccer game between the English cadets and American cadets, and they announced over the broadcast that Pearl Harbor had been bombed, and the English were just cheering like crazy. They thought that was wonderful, and we were so sad. I remember crying because I thought my brother would have to go, and it was so sad. And after that, then the war started. They had rationing, but they had your sugar and everything was rationed, almost sugar. I've even got a little ration book in there that they gave you at the time. It was very scarce. Like gasoline, only so much gasoline, so much sugar, so much flour. And people were very dedicated to winning the war because all the men that could enlisted. And those that they wouldn't accept because they had something wrong with them, they were very disappointed. And then the women went to work in these factories where they made war materials, And there was a song called Rosie the Riveter, remember that?
Yeah.
So it was a sad time too, though, because every day you'd look in the paper and they'd lose so many planes. And then they had the D-Day it was a terrible time when they invaded Germany. And then they were bombing Germany so terribly. They had to almost flatten Germany to defeat it because Germany had a good air force, and they had a good tank corps in that too. So they weren't that easy to defeat. World War II, when that started, then jobs became more plentiful and things were much better. And Roosevelt, I remember going to a bus stop and this black woman was crying her heart out. Roosevelt had just died the day before. And I said, "What's the matter?" And she says, "He's just like God dying." And black people thought he was wonderful, because he brought... The blacks in the South had it hard because that wasn't too long before that the plantations had closed, or they had let them go, and there were no jobs for them. So either they were garbage men, which up here that's not bad, but down there it was garbage men. They cleaned, they did wash, they cleaned houses, and they worked in hotels as bus boys or whatever. And it was bad for the blacks. It was bad for the whites too, but it was worse for the blacks. I was 18 and they had these flying cadets there, and I was out at Radium Springs. That was where where everybody went swimming. It was very cold and there was rocks around. It was a very unusual place, but they still have it there. And so this man came over and he asked me if I'd go out on a Saturday night and started. First of all, he stood up there and he looked for a long time, and I thought that's kind of strange. But anyway, he came down and asked me if I'd go out, and I went out with him, and very, very short time after that, he asked me if I'd marry him. And well, he had a lot going for him. He had graduated. He was 5 years older. He graduated from Ohio University, and he got his commission in the Air Corps the same month that I graduated from high school. So then I went out to, everything happened so fast. I went out to Spokane, Washington, and we got married out there. And then he went overseas. Then we went to Grand Island, Nebraska, because he was in combat training. And I had to be kind of dumb because I never even realized it. When you have a bomb group, and other things pertaining to the war, you know something's going on. But I didn't realize that he was going to go overseas. He was going to go overseas so fast. But he went over, I don't even remember the month, but it was only about 10 months from the time I met him to the time he died. He was killed. And he was missing for a year and a half and then presumed dead. And then they said the only reason they found his grave was the Germans kept such good records, so they had a place where he was buried, and they had the name of the town and all of that. And then they asked what you wanted to do with the body, what you wanted to do with the body. And I said, well, it'd be kind of nice to have it buried at Arlington Cemetery. So they brought him back, and he was buried in Arlington, and he's buried in with another member of the crew, the two of them on the same grave. In that, but he was awfully nice. I went to Ohio, and that's right, Alex was from Ohio, and I went to. In fact, I got an article about because the first mission he went on, he crashed in the North Sea. Well, I saw snow for the first time when I went there. I didn't like it, but the stuff was wet,
yeah,
and it got on your shoes. What are you supposed to do with wet shoes? It was different. Oh my God. Let's see, they were going to have a memorial service at Ohio University, and I was taking medication to have my tonsils out, and I thought, I have to go to that memorial service. And then they said I had to be in the hospital 3 days to have my tonsils out, and I thought, no, I can't do that. So I found a doctor that would take my tonsils out locally, and I went all by myself. Not my mother, not anybody. I went all by myself to this doctor's office, and he put something down there to deaden them, and I thought he had taken them out. I said, well, that's not so bad. Now remember, somebody had told me that's just like pulling a tooth. That's why I was going by. And then he put these little things down there, and he yanked and yanked and yanked. He pulled my tonsils out, and the blood gushed out. I'm sitting on the I think I was sitting on the side of the table because I would have been swallowing. I would have strangled on the blood. And so then he took the tonsils out. I must have rested a half an hour, and I took a taxi home. And when I got home, I think my mom was a little surprised. They told me it was like pulling a tooth, but it's more than that. So then I had to go to bed because I didn't feel very good. And then I started throwing up all this blood, and they thought I was hemorrhaging. I think I had swallowed so much of the blood, and I was just throwing it up. This black woman said, "She's going to die, sure as gun shooting." And I felt like I'm going to die. But I can't believe I did that.
Yeah,
but you know what? I did go to that memorial service. It was about 2 weeks away or something like that. I don't remember what it was. But can you imagine having your tonsils out locally? That was a foolish thing. But until I had my tonsils out, I was so thin. You know, I was very, very slim. I weighed 98 pounds when I got married. About 20, 21. And then I was out at the Folly Beach with this little boy that lived next door. We always had little kids. This little boy we thought was absolutely adorable. And we had him so much his mother was complaining because we wanted it, we wanted him over with us at our house and that. So anyway, we went out to Folly Beach, which is an old beach in Charleston. And he wanted to go on the Ferris wheel. And I was with my mom and dad, and I said to my dad, "Will you go with us?" He said, "Absolutely not." So this group of Marines was standing there, and I said, "Does one of you want to go with me? Will one of you go with me while we take this little boy on the Ferris wheel?" So Bud just stepped up really fast. He said he would. So we took, his name was Butch. We took Butch up on the Ferris wheel. So he said, "Can I go with you and your mom and dad?" So then after that, you just couldn't get rid of him. He was at your house constantly. He came over and he says, "Can I go with you?" And we thought, well, it was different back then. We thought he was a lonely serviceman. And we'd probably be doing him a favor, letting him come along like a family. So, and then he just kept coming to the house. I mean, it just kept coming. and so then when he got out of the Marine Corps, he went back to Minneapolis. And then a few months later, I went there to live and see what it was like, because it was supposed to be so cold. We got married. We lived out on a lake, and everybody loved that lake home, except me. So anyway, we sold that and we moved into Minneapolis, and I loved the city. It was just so warm and friendly and just a nice place to live. And then Bud got a transfer with the company he worked for to come to Milwaukee. So he came to Milwaukee, and then let's see, Jerry, Cindy, Tom, and Mary were all born in Minneapolis. Nancy, Carol, and John were born in Milwaukee. And what else do you want to know? And what did I know Bud for about 2 years before I married him? I was 23 when I got married again. I know at the time, I didn't think I'd ever get married. I thought I'd get married again. I just didn't waste much time thinking about it, His sister and his best friend. See, it was all his family. Because my family, they used to come, because my dad worked with the railroad, they got passes all the time. But they weren't too fond of Catholics. Especially my dad. My dad had been a 32-degree Mason. And I don't think they are too fond of Catholics. And they would say things about not being too fond of Catholics until Jerry was born. After that, they never said another word. It was, but until that, they did not care for, Baptists and Catholics. There's so much difference, between the two. I grew up Baptist, like all Southerners, majority of the Southerners. And then when I went to Minneapolis, I took instructions in the Catholic Church. Oh, gee, that was a nice priest. And then after that, I became a Catholic. And there was this lady that I lived with, and she came, and it was Bud's family. It was very small. And we had a reception. And of course, that was mostly his family that came to that. And then we had a honeymoon up north. I listened to the wolves howl all night. That was up northern Minnesota. That's where we went, northern Minnesota. And the wolves would howl all night, and I'd think, oh my God, where am I? You know, it was scary. And then we came back and we settled down in our little house by the lake. Everybody loved that house. Except me. Well, it was all work for me, you know. And they'd come out with their kids and they'd go out to the lake and swim and fish or whatever they'd do, and then they'd come in and eat, and then they'd go home, and there I was with all the debris and everything else left there. It was not much fun. So we moved into the cutest little house on Beard Avenue. And it was nice there. Oh, and then, but that's right, we moved from Beard over to, because that was when Tom, we only had 2 bedrooms there on Beard. And then we moved over to Whitworth Avenue, where there was supposed to be another long bedroom upstairs, so there would be 3, but we had 4 kids. I'll tell you, I really liked that city. You know, Minneapolis. Yeah, I did. But Bud was very nice. He was nice. I didn't know at the time he had been a Marine, and he'd been in the Pacific, and I didn't know it until I saw his discharge papers that he'd been in about 5 initial invasions, and he never talked about it except for the fact that it really kind of shocked him, the fact that they'd bring these Japanese that had been burned so badly by flamethrowers, and they'd dump them in the water. Mm-hmm. And then I heard from, I don't know who it was, he went to the VA a lot, and so they wanted me to come over with it to find out some of that, and then I went, and then I thought, I don't care about this stuff. You know, it was over, it was done with. And but I think the war left him kind of on edge, you know, kind of like short temper and very aggressive about different things, you know. But it was more or less normal, you know. Sundays had to be for watching TV. I could have taken a hammer and smashed that thing, but I didn't. Down the street from us lived Charles Schultz that draws peanuts. And when we lived on Wentworth, and they lived down the street, they had Meredith and 2 little boys, Monty, and I don't know the other little boy's name, I don't remember it. And he used to walk past the house he worked for the Minneapolis paper, I think it was I can't remember the name, but anyway. But anyway, he used to walk past the house every day because Joyce had to have the car in order to go downtown and take music lessons in case something ever happened to him. She'd be able to take care of the kids by giving music lessons. And once in a while, we'd go down to Dayton's for lunch. But she had kind of a short temper, and I think he eventually divorced her and married someone else out in California. He didn't make it big until he went to California. They only lived there a short while, and then they moved over to Minnehaha Boulevard. That's Minneapolis. They put in a freeway. They bought the house we lived in, and they put a freeway in there. It was on Wentworth Avenue. They tore down our house, I don't know how many, but see, we were kind of close to the road where they wanted to put the freeway. And Jerry went to first grade there. Tom really drove me crazy. You know, we went to court for Tom. I knew more police, and they'd come by the house, and you know, they would come in and talk to Tom, and they would just say to him, you know, Tom, I thought it was kind of cute too, until they put you in the cell, and one of these men thinks you're a boyfriend, it's not going to be so cute. And they'd talk to him and try to snap him out of some of that. And I remember Officer Smith, he used to follow Tom home when he had a motorcycle. Oh, God. And it's not much fun when you got the police. You know, that filling station over there right off the freeway, he blew up the bathroom there. I mean, why? I don't know how. But Bud Baltz had it then. He didn't steal. He didn't go in and steal things. of God that I know of. But he was always doing something. Well, he was working for this gas station, and he got mad with this man. So he said to his dad, "What would you do if you got mad with this such and such for doing this?" And he said, "I'd put a brick through his window." Tom put a brick through his window. So that's not, when you got a kid doing things like that, you got your hands full. He was up a tree. He was up over the garage. He's sitting on top of a little toddler sitting on top of the garage. I don't blame people being afraid. Well, he had to be what? He'd be 5 or 6 years old, at least. Well, whatever. And they were more active than the other kids in the neighborhood, I think. There were so many of them. One time we went to court, and Bud got up and he said, "Well, we know who's guilty of this. We know who's caused this." The judge said, "Shut up and sit down." I think he went on Tom's side then. Tom did do it. Tom did do a lot of, like blowing up a bathroom, putting a brick through a window. Those are pretty bad things. And like I said, if it hadn't been for the Marine Corps, I don't think he'd have straightened out. But when he went in the Marine Corps, and they went out we never thought of him getting out of it. But I hear some kids do get out. Well, when he first went in, I thought he was too young to go in Vietnam, and I thought that didn't seem right. But when he went in, I used to get these letters. Oh, I'd be sick. He'd say how mean they were to him and how horrible the time he was having. And I'd just feel terrible. And Bud just smiled like, "Yeah, I'm getting revenge now." So then finally he said, he was close to the end, and he says, "Write and tell him congratulations, you made it so many weeks, you know." And then he went, after that, I think he went to college in Austin, Minnesota, and then he became a policeman, then he became a detective, and now he's a mayor. And he's straightened out. I don't say he's perfect, but the girls were no problem, except Carol. She could always find something. In Carol, when she was a teenager, she was wild. She was completely wild, and at least I thought she was. Carol was funny. We used to have to watch that girl when she'd go off to school, or she'd have jewelry draped around, had pieces on, maternity tops on. She went out one time, and they said, "Mom, go look at Carol. She was on her way to kindergarten." You know, the kids could walk, well, they usually went with the older kids and that, but they could walk from our house over to Johnson School, and we had no fear. You know, the only thing is watching them across that busy street. But I had to watch Carol because and Billy, Addie, is a lot like Carol. And I saw pictures of her when she had all these clothes and this jewelry, and I thought, oh my God. They used to have a place called Shirley's down on, oh God, that was a nightmare. They'd be down there instead of at home helping and doing their schoolwork, they'd want to go to Shirley's. See, my trouble is Nancy was kind of like the leader, and she would always get John and Carol and kind of get them going down to Shirley's and places. I hated that Shirley. Why I didn't go down there sometime, I'll never know. I mean, I should have just gone in there. I should have gone and stood inside and said, "Now I've had enough of this. If Nancy and Carol come in here and get them, I'll have the police on you." So, but then they admitted later she wasn't the nicest person. That Jerry, Cindy, Tom, and Mary, they never did things like that. Things changed in the 60s. Mm-hmm. I don't think you'd even know the kids before the 60s compared to after that. But no, that's not much. Jerry was really smart in school. When I'd go for a conference, and he behaved himself. I mean, he was never acting up in school and that. He wasn't that good at home, because he and Tom and that would fight, you know. And, but they used to say, "Oh, his IQ is so high, so high." I have an idea of what it was, but I don't really remember what it was. And I know Mary, They said her IQ was so... Mary is smart. John, oh God, she did. They used to want to dress him and put him in a buggy, they wanted to dress him like a little girl and put him in the buggy. I mean, a doll buggy. Nancy and Carol took such good care of John that I didn't have to worry about John at all. If it hadn't been for Nancy and Carol, especially Nancy, I would have had no problem with John. But they would kind of influence him to go and do the things that they wanted to do, you know. Like I said, Carol was a little on the wild side. She was, I had a terrible time finding her sometimes. But thank God I had a few policeman friends. they were, you'd be surprised how nice the police were back then. If you needed help, they would be right there to help you. I mean, it could be something to be kind of silly to somebody else, you know, but I know kind of like Carol there, when I couldn't find her, it was 2:00 in the morning, and I called, I did everything I could to find her. I couldn't, so I called this policeman. We went over there, and he went in, he knocked on the door, and asked if she was there, and they said no. Mm-hmm. I don't think he went in. But then they had a trailer in the back, so he went through that. I forget, then I think she came home while we were gone or something like that. They were a little wild, though, Nancy and Carol. John would have been okay if it hadn't been for Nancy and Carol. Especially Nancy, because she was the leader. There was almost nothing you could do. It was, remember Bud was gone from Monday to Thursday, and I was alone there with those 7 kids. Cindy was the babysitter. She had to watch the little ones outside an awful lot. Oh, you know something really cute? When I got married, I had a cocker. It was kind of like a bigger cocker, you know, and it had curly hair. And I wanted to name him, my dad wanted to name him Ruggles, and Bud wanted to name him Mike. So anyway, it ended up his name was Mike. And so when I got married, I took him to Minnesota with me, and then when we were moved into Beard, you know, when Jerry learned to walk, he hung on to this dog, and that's how he learned to walk. Wherever Jerry went, that's where that dog was, and you could not move the dog, because if you moved him, he'd go back. And he slept under his bed constantly. But it was tough raising those kids. When you think about it, I didn't know it at the time. Well, if it hadn't been for the 60s and the drugs that came in and things like that, well, not that they used drugs, well, whatever, you know, they might have used marijuana, but if it hadn't been for all the ways society changed, I don't think there'd have been any trouble with those kids. But it was kind of like Jerry and Cindy. I never had any trouble with them. Jerry would bring his trouble home with fighting with the kids, mm-hmm. but not outside the house, and that he didn't. And Cindy, she was a little angel. And they were pretty good. They were pretty good kids. Tom was the only really one that got in trouble, you know, real trouble with anybody. Do you know what I was thinking the other night? Bud never had one fight with the neighbors, not one fight. And the one on the other side of us, everybody thought they were weird. They were very strange. And they had those 2 boys, and they complained when Tom would go over, he was 4 or 5 years old, he'd go over the garage, he was just playing. And they'd say, oh my God, there he goes over the garage. Well, I couldn't watch him all the time. So anyway, it turned out that they shot, one of his kids went down the base, he shot a BB gun through our bedroom window with a baby sleeping in there. But they were wanting to complain about the kids constantly because, and then on the other side, she came over and she was telling me off. The kids would all play in our yard because we had the swings and the sandbox in there. So, and it was easier than watching them off in somebody else's yard. So anyway, she came over and she was telling me all the things that was wrong because little Kathy was there playing. And then she went to walk across the street. I said, oh, you forgot Kathy. She said, no, she can stay and play. I said, I don't think so. So one night, that Larry, he was skipping stones, and it hit our bedroom window, the living room window. You know that, and it was supposed to rain. So I went over and I knocked on the door. Oh, they were such nasty people. And he wouldn't come to the door, so I went in his house. Oh, gee. Oh, I was so gutsy. I don't know. I was just so mad. And anyway, I went over to their house and they said, well, we can't fix it tonight. And I said, it's supposed to rain. And you know, the damage you can do, whatever. So they were out there fixing it with a flashlight. The people across the street were making cat calls over. Buddy and I went on an awful lot. Then we had his mother stay with the kids, although she's different. But anyway, we always went to Squirrel Lake up by Minocqua. Was it 1 or 2 weeks? I don't know. Let's say a week. And we took the kids. And we also took the Irish setter. And one year we took the kitty and the Irish setter. And Mary got mad with the kitty because he killed a chipmunk. So she threw him in the lake, and he got pneumonia. And a psychiatrist with his two, it was his sons, I don't remember what they had. He had several sons. He came, he had penicillin. He gave it to the cat got well. And then, that's the only time I think we ever brought the animal. Well, we could have brought the dogs. But we used to go there every summer. And it was fun. It was called Squirrel Lake. There, I was up there with Cindy, Carol, we couldn't find it the other day. I think they sold it and made it into, there was little cabins, they made them into condos. We got kicked out of one place. It bothered Bud horribly. We went to this place, this man, he had a lot of people from Illinois there. He had all kinds of rules and regulations. And Cindy and Greg camped, and they like to come to where we stayed, and take a shower. Because the campsites, they couldn't take showers, or they didn't take showers. So, this man, he sent his little boy down to listen to whether the water was running or not, you know, something, I don't know. But he'd be sitting on that hill listening for something. So anyway, he told he'd like for us to leave and never come back. Well, I thought it was kind of funny because he was kind of weird anyway. And then Bud he got his feelings hurt so horribly. I said, haven't you ever been kicked out of better places than this? We got kicked out of the camp. Bud and I went to Germany. We had a beautiful trip to Italy. It was just, everything was just top rate. And boy, a lot of those Italians can speak English too. Then we went through Canada. I got a picture of John, and we must have taken John and Nancy and Carol, because I got a picture of John and me in Canada. And then we went to a lot of places like San Francisco. Mary was a traveling nurse, and we used to go visit her too. Carol and I went to see her in Hawaii. And Bud and I went to see her in New Orleans and San Francisco and a few other places, you know. Yeah, he did a lot. Cindy says, Mom, you just don't like staying home. I said, I never did. I used to go there back then, and I think there's a great big world out there just waiting for me. And now I finally found it. I don't have the strength to get out and go. We stayed at the top hotels, the most expensive hotels. It was through the Knights of Columbus, but anyway, we stayed at the nicest hotels. We had the nicest food. We met this Beisingers. He used to be a alderman here, and they had to live 1 block over from us. And so we went with them. And you know what? When Bud was 72, he'd kind of like, if there was a Walt Disney movie, we'd mostly go take the kids to that. We'd go to the circus. They didn't all have a place to sit in that car. I used to think, why doesn't he get a station wagon? He says, well, I'm not comfortable in a station wagon. I have to have a big car that I can get comfortable in with driving so much. Ask your dad where he sat. In the back window, I think.
Oh my God.
Well, put 7 kids in a car. Where you going to put them? Yeah, I would say we're all Catholic, but the priests doing what they do, that's a big disappointment. And I was talking to this woman, she's the chaplain for the Catholic, here, and she says a lot of people have left the Catholic religion because of the scandal. But this Pope, I think he's going to be good. He said that all the priests will be punished by law, not by church, by law, and the bishops that try to hide them will also be, what am I trying to say, not sued, but persecuted by law. So that was the best thing he could have said. But the Catholic religion is a beautiful religion if you have it, if it's personal and you know what you believe and don't bring other people into it, Oh my gosh, even the airplane, when the airplane used to come over, we'd run outside to look at, because there were so few airplanes. The train, first of all, I remember the old cars. My dad had a Packard. It had isinglass windows. And you could punch those windows out when it got real old. But then after that, there was the trains, and my dad was a real train buff. We used to sit when I was little, and that's funny I can remember back then. But when I was little, he used to sit in a rocker and he'd sing old railroad songs. Casey Jones, and Casey Jones was a hell of an engineer, and some of the others I can't even remember now. But anyway, the trains, but nothing as modern as this. But he had to get everything when he came. He'd have computers and that if he was living. But anyway, he had to get this TV, and I thought, what a waste of time. And on there, the kids would watch that Howdy Doody show. That was the main thing, Howdy Doody. I can't remember what else they had on there. But oh yeah, I remember sit in the living room and I'd think, why in the world does he want that thing? See, it wasn't that interesting. They didn't have that much. Oh, remember how telephones used to be the flat part with the dial down in, that long thing, and then that round thing he'd talk into? They used to have party lines, and you could listen in on the party. Well, people really didn't. I don't think they were that interesting, but they had party lines. They claimed people listened in, and you had to go through an operator to get to make your call. Got a micro thing where you cook real fast. Gave it away because I'm afraid of it. And so, and then on the microwave. Who would ever thought they would be used like that? Half the people here say they don't even cook. They use their microwave. Radio. We used to listen to these programs, the Lucky Strike Parade and all of that, and then these shows of, you just live for these shows that were on Sunday night. They were just like talking, when I was growing up, it wasn't on that much. There was too much else to do. I mean, you were with your friends, and you were going to different things you were involved in, and school, and that. And you like Sunday night we'd listen to I can't remember the name of it. Anyway, it was this program. You hear them refer to it once in a while. You know what? At one time we had oil lamps. I don't remember much about them, but they had kerosene and they had a wick, and that wick had to be trimmed. And that, when did we have those? Oh. And then electricity came. We had, what surprises me are the people that didn't have indoor toilets. We always had an indoor toilet. We didn't always have electricity. And that's during the Depression. Every once in a while somebody couldn't pay their bill. They didn't do like they do now with getting stamps or whatever. They just go in and turn the electricity off. I like things like the radio where you just turn a knob, turn another knob, get to stations. I don't like, computers are, there's a lot of people my age that don't know how to use computers. That's because you have to be told over and over and over again. I have so many of the kids that tell me things, and they tell me real fast at once. I don't even know what they're talking about. See, it was a more relaxed time. You weren't in a hurry because it wasn't. Nothing was instant.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was a very relaxed. You didn't miss anything because you didn't have it. You know, we didn't know what a microwave or a computer that was. You would have thought. I think they're talking about another world of way in the future or something. A lot has happened real fast. To have lived so long and had a family that I'm proud of. I really am proud of my family, and to have had. I think I've had a good life. I mean, I don't look back with many regrets. In fact, I don't look back with any regrets. The fact you can relax and not have any responsibilities, really, I don't. Except taking care of myself. What's the most rewarding? Yeah. You know what's the most rewarding, if I could be honest, is to help my kids. You know, I mean, kind of like in school, if I can do anything to help, or if there's any, I don't want to tell people I did this and that. I do it sometimes and I hate myself for it. I'm more or less a happy person. I mean, I have times when I feel a little down about something, or if something happens, it gets me down or something, but I'm more or less happy. And I like people. And I'm just glad to be alive. I kind of wonder what the world's going to do without me, though, when I'm gone. How's it, I won't be here to see it, so what's going to go on out around there? And I know I can't live forever, but I'm not going to spend any time worried about when I'm going to die, because the doctor just told me the other day, what did he say? He said, oh, you're good for another 10 years. I said, do you know how old I am? And he said, make it 5. That's a kidney doctor. I don't know if anybody's got a better family, really. Not all in all. So, be proud of yourselves. When you're not supposed to cough, that's when you cough. And that Donald Trump, if he ever says, I'm rich again, I think I'll throw up. Because he had to declare bankruptcy in the past too. I'm rich. And then when he sticks his chin out, I don't see anybody there that would make a good president. You know what I need is a piece of candy.